One of the easiest ways to close more revenue is to stay top of mind with your prospects and referral partners. Now, that sounds easy, but the hard part is actually keeping that consistent. Sending thoughtful messages to dozens of people every week takes a ton of time, and ultimately, most of those relationships end up going cold. So, in this video, I'll show you how to use AI and automation to nurture your prospects so it actually feels human. We'll identify prospects in your CRM that you haven't talked to for a while. We'll grab their last notes and emails that you've recorded in your CRM. We'll grab their last LinkedIn post and company posts in case we need some content to use for a message. We'll use OpenAI to generate a message that actually feels like something you would write, and then we'll send it all automatically. That way, you or your client or your business can be nurturing your prospects all on autopilot. As usual, I'm going to start from scratch and I'll walk you through the entire workflow. Let's jump in. So, one of the easiest ways to close more revenue is to stay top of mind with all the people you've talked to. So, when I work with a client, the first thing I usually jump into is, do they have their CRM? Is their CRM organized? When's the last time they've talked to a lot of these prospects? Do they have a bunch of cold prospects? And a lot of times, if you just re-engage your past prospects, you end up identifying either immediate deals or you resurface some introductions that someone might be able to make for you. And the messages that you're usually sending are quick follow-ups like, hey, I remember last time we talked, you were going to go on a cool surfing trip. I hope it was great. We just launched this new product. I would love to get your feedback on it. Let me know if you're around next week. And that's like a perfect, quick follow-up touch point that's personal, feels human. If you remember something from the past that you talked about, the problem with that is that's really hard to do when your past prospect list is potentially hundreds, if not thousands. So a good place to start, either in your own business or if you're trying to sell AI on automation, go into a client and look at their current CRM and identifying if there's a bunch of prospects that they've reached out to and talked to that they haven't talked to for over maybe 3 months or 2 months or even 1 month, and starting to build in some automations that do this on a recurrent process. So I've set up a new HubSpot instance. HubSpot, if you're not familiar, is a CRM. You can use their CRM for free. It's a great tool. And it's also a tool that many, many companies use. So it's a good one to be familiar with. Either your own company's using it, or again, if you have clients like AI automation clients, they are probably using it, or there's a high likelihood that they'd be using it. In this case, I just threw in 2 contacts for us to start playing around with. One is the contact that comes with HubSpot as the demo account. And the other one's just my contact. So this is the contact information for one of my other agencies that we do AI content generation for businesses. And if you're running a sales process, you're typically reaching out to contacts, finding new prospects. And then this would be not 2 records, it would be like hundreds of records. And HubSpot and probably most CRMs will store a property called like last contacted. And I've configured this a little bit just for this demo. So last contacted would be stored if you track a note or an email, and HubSpot lets you track like notes, emails, calls, tasks, meetings, those types of things. Now, I will say I threw in this test last contacted in just so we can run our test scenarios on it. But usually you're going to be using this like last contacted. And the idea is we just want to be able to either create a list in HubSpot to see who have I not talked to for the past 3 months or 4 months, like whatever that cadence is. And then you really just want to identify some reason to reach out. Problem is, it's just really hard. So we're about to fix that. So let's start by doing exactly what we talked about and getting our last HubSpot contacts that we haven't talked to in the past 30 days. We're going to search for contacts, right? And then we can do a bunch of different filters on this. It also asks which properties you want to select. I'm just going to select all of them. There's a ton in here, plus custom ones. You obviously can limit this if you want to, but for all of these, I'm just going to select all because it's the easiest button to push. And the connection for HubSpot, or for most of the connections through this whole workflow and demo, are going to be pretty much as simple as clicking add, and then it's going to have you log in, or it might have you create an API key, but it usually walks you through how to set that up. All right, now HubSpot specifically with this module took me a little bit of messing around with to figure it out. And I've used it enough now that I'm familiar with it, but it doesn't have it's not the most like logical. So any of the search for, so it's like search for contacts, search for notes, search for emails, they have this query piece. And you can throw a word in here and it will pretty much search for whatever this word is within any of the searchable fields within like HubSpot. I don't use that. I use this filter piece. So it'll ignore the query. And then if you show advanced, it lets you actually filter by properties. And that seems much more valuable to me than the query, but please correct me if I'm wrong. So we want to filter by, I created this test last contacted. Again, you're probably going to use the actual last contacted. So if I do last contact, you can say there's a last contacted. This is created by HubSpot. I'm guessing any CRM you use has something like this. And this is really just how you want to track the last time that like an email or message was sent. So I'm throwing this test one in. And again, the main reason is because I can manually override it. The actual last contacted property in there doesn't let me change it. So I can't do a good test to see if I haven't talked to someone for 30 days. And then we just want to set a time. So we're going to do, last less than or equal to, we're going to use something called add days. And we need to do now, which I'm doing these shortcuts. So I'm doing / and then just typing in the function I need. You can also grab any of these functions over here. So you can see they're over here. The date one, here's now. And then where did I get I haven't been over here for a while because now I know all the names of them. Yeah, here's the date and time functions down here, so you can grab them and see, and also a good way to see what other options there are down there. So add days actually lets you put both positive and negative. So we want to do -30 because we want to pretty much say like 30 days ago if it's been greater than 30 days. So we'll do 30 days for now, but you could do 3 months, 6 months, whatever you want, a year. And then the one other thing we want to add, and this is going to be custom to either like your business or your client's business, is going to be some type of filtering on what the lead status is. So I'm just going to do lead status for now. And this is built into HubSpot, and we're just going to be open. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. This looks like this stage over here. Every contact within HubSpot has a lead status. Generally, you're going to have some type of flow, and this is usually very custom to every company. So you'll need to configure this a little bit on what you need. So this might be you're actually checking if there's like a deal open or if there's been a past deal. You might not just see if it's open, you might see if it's in progress. You also might want to see if it was like bad timing. Like there's a bunch of different options you could set this to. I'm just going to do open for now to keep it simple, but just keep in mind that you most likely would need to have this filter set to something custom to whatever your CRM configuration is. Other than that, we can sort by if we want to. It doesn't really matter, but here, like let's do test. We'll just sort by this. I don't think that really matters though. And then we don't really need to limit. Most likely you're going to run this every day and we'll save it. So let's run this, see if we actually get something. And we did. We got 2 results here. So our input piece is up here. Our output is down here, which is what we're looking at. So this is the data that we received back from HubSpot. And we have 2 bundles, bundle 1, bundle 2, which means we got 2 records. And all of these properties are included. So this is a massive list. But the main thing is we want to look at for now is just, did we get 2 contacts? Cool. So that alone is actually very powerful. You could just stop there and say, show me a list of everyone who I haven't talked to in the past 30 days and send a list to your, sales team and say, go contact these people. You just honestly stop there. That alone will generate a ton of revenue. But we're going to take a little further and add some automation. So within HubSpot, we need to be able to get these notes and emails. So you can see I logged some emails. These are just pretend emails and some pretend notes. I try to make it like I had a conversation with the person, and this Brian was going on a backpacking trip, which is super cool. And he's going to get back to me, once he gets back from the backpacking trip, which is great reason to reach out after a while. And then we track emails. So HubSpot actually has a way where you can link email, and it pulls in all of your emails with that specific person, which is fantastic because then we can feed that into our GPT and have it do lots of different options for us. And to get these within HubSpot, we have to do something called association and just get these list of associations. I've worked with a bunch of other CRMs and they're very similar. You have to associate one type of object to another type of object through some type of like association or like record table. So in other words, a contact has many emails, a contact has many notes, a contact is part of a company, and all those relationships have to be configured some way. And you also have to be able to pull those out some way within make.com or NADN or whatever tool you're using. So we're going to say from contact, and our contact is going to be our ID that we just got from our search. Then we're going to say to, and we're going to get our notes and emails. We're going to get both. We're going to limit 10. That's fine. And you can run that. I like to run stuff along the way just to make sure everything's configured because I hate going too far and then realizing I didn't configure something correctly. So we can see we got the bundle, and we have associations, and we have our emails, and we have our notes. Now, the one thing you'll see here is we don't actually get the email, and we don't actually get the note. So now we have to go a step further and actually call another module that gets the email, or call another module that actually gets the note. So let's start with emails. So we're going to use our iterator, and because it's an array that we got, we need to iterate over those emails. So you can see our data here is, hide my head, a little easier to see, is the object that came back, and within it has associations, which is a collection or like object with a bunch of arrays in it. The arrays are just a list of stuff if you're not familiar. So you can see it says array, like emails array. So we're gonna grab the email, and what that's gonna do is just loop through all of the emails. And with each one of those emails, we're gonna get an email. And this just takes an ID, which is gonna be our ID from the associated object ID. Save it, and now let's actually run this and see if we get some emails. Oh, one thing we forgot, this one does require show advanced settings, and we need to select all the properties. So what just came back was, it's like high level metadata, which isn't much more than what we already had. So we're just going to select all the properties, and then you can see we're going to get like all of the email body, CC, everything. So let's save it. Now let's run it. Now you can see we get the entire email. It was great. Thanks again for the time. So the email has the dates, who is to, all those things, which is cool. So now let's get our notes. So to get our notes, we can just duplicate this and throw in a router and then get our notes. Attach this here. And then this iterator, we're going to switch from emails to over here. We have notes, save, and then instead of get an email, I can actually duplicate that. So instead of get an email, we're going to get a note. And you could go even further with this if you wanted to. If you want to get calls, meetings, I'm just going to do emails and notes just to show you the process, and then you can go much deeper, obviously. Your associate IDs, save it. Oh, don't want to forget my advanced settings. Go over our properties, save. Let's clean this up a bit. And let's run it just to make sure we get all of our notes too. See, we have 3 notes. Let's check out the first one. And here's our note, body preview. We had a great demo, but it wasn't a good time. It wasn't good timing. Sounds about right. This one also includes some planning on keeping in touch. You mentioned living in San Diego and loves to surf and play golf. Interesting. So these are the types of notes you would save, or a sales team would save, because in the future they're going to reach out and be like, oh man, hey, did you play this golf? Or just remember that you need to talk. And then we can use that within our GPT to generate a message to the person to make it seem more familiar and human. Cool. So again, you can do this within HubSpot. You can create a list. It can show you this stuff within HubSpot, which is fine. You can totally do that. But what would the fun of that be? We want to actually build an AI automation to do something way cooler. All right, now what would be cool is if we actually could grab the person's last LinkedIn post and the person's last company's post. Now, I'll preface this with, a lot of people don't post on LinkedIn. Their companies probably post on LinkedIn, but we would want to usually use the personal data or the email and notes first, and then fall back on something from the contact. So as I'm building this out, I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to show you the prompt. I have this massive, super cool prompt that we'll use at the end. But let's start with actually scraping some LinkedIn posts, because it's also very cool. And I use a tool called Appify, and I have it spun up here already for one of the scrapers I've been using. So if you're not familiar with Appify pretty much lets you scrape about anything on the web. And most of the scrapers are created by the community, and you pay a small amount either per scrape or a small monthly fee, and you get access to the scrapers, and it can kind of get you any data. So if I go to this Appify store, you can see there's tons of data that you could scrape. So the actors I found, they're called actors, which is kind of these scripts that run that go and scrape stuff. The actors I found, there were 2 that allowed you to scrape profile posts, LinkedIn profile posts, and company posts without cookies. Now, disclaimer, LinkedIn doesn't like this, and it's technically against the rules to scrape content. So sometimes these scrapers come and go because they change the way they do it, and the scraper quits working. I'm testing these 2 that have no cookies, and they've worked really well. And they also only charge the pricing models $5 per 1,000 results. So it's a lot easier just to run this. When you sign up for Appify, you do get $5 for free. So I have done a few videos with this specific account. I've only used 63 cents. So when you're grabbing a new scraper, you pretty much just go to the Appify store and you do LinkedIn profile. and there'd be a bunch of scrapers here for LinkedIn profile. And then I just found the LinkedIn profile post has a bunch of stars, decent reviews. You click on it. If you do a first test run, it will show up in your actors. Then you can choose it within make.com as an option to run. So if I had gone to this actor, I would grab the person I want to scrape. I would click start. And this does look somewhat complicated. These are all the properties that you need within Apify. But generally, click run, it'll go get the posts, and it returns it as an array. So there's a few gotchas in here, and let's go through those now. So assume you've already clicked run, and it now shows up in your actors. Once it shows up in your actors, you can then come over here to make.com, and when you connect your Apify account, you can use run an actor, which is our module here. And let's start a new route. I'm actually going to disable these just so we're not messing with these. And then we come into our actor and we choose our actor. So typically you can just do recently used actors. You can see I have a bunch of them that show up here, and we want to get LinkedIn profile post scraper. And then you just update the username. Now the username actually allows you to put a URL in here too. And the only way I really knew that was because I saw it in here. So I could see profile or URL. And then if I go to the JSON, it says username equals, and I could see I could put the URL in there. So I don't have to worry about like parsing out the username, which is nice. So I'm just going to replace the URL with our data from our contact. So remember, I have search for contacts. We got all the properties, and it's hard to search through here, but there's these like HS, which means HubSpot, which means they're like built into HubSpot. And there's a LinkedIn one, LinkedIn URL. So as long as you have that filled, so you can see Brian doesn't have his filled in, and I don't think I have mine filled in either. So let's fill that in real quick. There we go. So now I have the LinkedIn URL filled in. Again, this was a HubSpot specific property, but you could always add this type of property to any CRM that you're using. So that will end up filling in our HubSpot URL. And then page numbers, we want to get 1, which is fine. Limit 5 is fine. Maximum charge results, I usually put 1 just for testing. You can change that once you actually run. And then run synchronously, and the opposite would be asynchronously. So run synchronously, we actually want to click this as yes. And the reason is this will run the actor and sit there and wait for it to be done. So actually go scrape, it'll sit there and wait for it to be done, and then it will return the result. And that's what we need. And everything else we can kind of leave the same. So then let's just add a quick filter here to make sure like has LinkedIn URL. We'll just have like HS, what was it, LinkedIn, something like that, LinkedIn URL exists, and then we'll actually run it. So we'll skip Brian, and then I'll go and grab my LinkedIn URL. And let's run this. And it'll take a second, but I'm going to run it and skip forward. You can see the output. All right, that didn't take super long. So let's look at the output from Apify. So this is where some of the gotchas are. So Apify doesn't actually return the results, which is both smart and annoying. You now have to make another request to actually get a data set. So Apify runs an actor, and the actor creates a data set. And then that data set, let's go to Apify here. That data set is saved in runs. And then you can see all the runs that you did. So this top one is probably the one we just did. And once you go in there, you'd actually be able to see the runs. And you can see the data within that. And the data would be, yeah, here's all the posts that I just pulled. So we need one more module, which is Apify, and it's get data set. And we're just going to grab I think it's the default data set. And what I'm doing forward slash. If you're not familiar with this, I do forward slash, and it's just a quick command shortcut to start searching for everything within here. And I can also just do it up here. So if I want to do like data set, it limits it. So that's pretty much what the forward slash is doing. So when you see me doing, that's what I'm doing. And we just need default data set. So I click default data set. I'm going to fill it in here. In the format JSON, limit 100, offset we don't need, and save. All right, now let's run it so you can actually see some interesting output. Again, this will take a second, so I'll jump for it. All right, we got it. And now we can look at the output, and you can see the output is the original bundle, which is the input, the output, which is the data that we actually want. We can see has a bunch of bundles here, and within each of those bundles is a new post. So here's the URL to the post. You can see the date that was posted. And then you can see the rest of the post. It pulls the text out, as you can see all the text from it. And then you can use this within the actual messages that you would reach out to. So now we have posts from people, and let's clean this up so everything's a little more organized. And then a lot of people don't actually post on LinkedIn, but their companies post on LinkedIn. So let's have another step that actually goes and grabs the company's most recent post. Again, you could take this even further and have it go and grab news about the company through like Google News, or there's a few different options to get news about a company. But let's actually have it connect to our HubSpot company. So we're going to do this very similar piece. So list associations. And now we're going to grab company associations. Let me disable these again. So we're just kind of working one at a time on these routes. Organize this so we can see it. And this is going to be from object. It's going to be contact. So we search for, we're going to come back here and grab the contact ID again. This is very similar to our other association. This time we're going to get company. And let's just limit this to one because we don't accidentally get multiple companies. I guess there is a case where a contact could be in multiple companies, but we'll leave it at this. Let's do get a company. And we'll get the company ID that we just got from the previous company. And we can get this from our last company. And instead of iterating over all these, since we're only getting one, we can actually just grab the first one. So we want to get the associated object ID here. And you can see this is actually set up as an array. So I can leave this blank and I'll grab the first one, but I actually just usually put one in here. So you could put two, you could put three. If this is an array of objects, it's pretty much saying like, give me the first object. And people know about arrays. Make actually starts with one instead of zero if you're used to coding. And then we want to grab all of our properties. And then save. And as usual, let's run it real quick just to make sure we get our company. What was this error? This isn't company. It's contact. Here we go. It's contact to company. Now let's run it. Make sure we get it. There we go. We should have all of our company data. Got both contacts. So each one has a company. You can see we have a bunch of properties in here. And one of those should be LinkedIn. So once you get the company data, you can then get the LinkedIn profile. And we're going to run a similar process with Appify and scrape the company profile posts. So we've come over to actors. I'd already used the actor called LinkedIn Company Post Scraper. So I can go run an actor again. Then this time we're going to choose we have recently used actors. We're going to choose our company posts. And then we switch the company name from whatever it is to our LinkedIn. I'll do the search up here. So I think it was like LinkedIn company page. It's going to be this one. And again, this actor allows you to give it the full URL or the company name. So if we come over and look at our company page, our company account within HubSpot, you can see, I have my name. Then up here we have companies, we have Outworks, which is the company, and then it has a LinkedIn company page down here. So you could technically just use this like Outworks-growth, or it takes the full URL, which is nice because you don't have to mess with extracting that out of the URL. Then limit, we really only need like 3. I don't know, we don't need that many. Sort by recency, maximum of charge results. Again, I stick this to 1. We switch it to synchronously again. Again, that will mean that this is going to stop and wait for it to run. That should be all we need for this. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect the get data set because we know we're going to need it. Get our data set. This is going to be our default data set again. So if I just search data set up here, we see default data set, choose this. The format's the same, and that should be it. Cool. So let's clean this up, run it, and see if we actually get some posts. Cool. It finished, and we have some posts. Great, from Outwork. So we have texts. We have the URL if we need it. The posted at. I think it'll even give media in here. Do I have any that have actual media? Yeah, media, video. I'll give you URL. Yeah, URL, duration. So you actually get a ton of data in here, which is pretty cool. And then I'm guessing this other operation failed. Yeah, no post found or wrong input. So we'll just want to throw in a filter before this just to not waste the resources. Has LinkedIn URL. We'll have this one be, oh, not right there. And then we'll have this one be get a company. We're going to throw this right here, set up a filter. Here's where we want it has LinkedIn URL. And this would be LinkedIn something. What was it? LinkedIn company page. We can just stick LinkedIn company page. I have this exists and save. Awesome. So all of this work just to send one tiny little message to the person. Again, these are a few different options I've thrown out. Do what works for you and your situation. But the final step is going to put all this together and throw it into a massive prompt. I don't know if it's massive, but a very large prompt that is going to create a tiny little message out of all of it. So let's give that a shot. So when you use the routes within Make, the routes don't know about the other routes. They don't know about each other, which is actually kind of annoying. So we solve all this just by setting a variable. The thing is, I can't actually connect this yet because I need to turn these bundles into an array, because then we can use that much easier when we're getting that variable. So we're just going to throw in a flow control array aggregator, and this is just going to run through and collect all of the data we had and return it as an array. So we want to get like email ID, you want to get all the properties, create it out. That's probably all we need. Save this. And then now we can connect this. So it's going to set our emails array, and then we're going to have to do that for each one of these. Save it. And now you can see each one of these has this final set variable. So now we can access these variables. We can use a function called get the variable. We can get all the data, and then now we can access that data in a separate route. So let's actually do that. We're going to grab get, not just one variable. We want to get multiple variables. So we use this function to get multiple variables. This allows us not to have a bunch of linked variables like the exact same like get variable. So now we can just add a bunch of them in here. So our first one's called emails array, notes array, contact posts array, company posts array. Save that. Cool. So let's run this whole massive thing. I'm going to re-enable all of these routes, and this is going to take a minute. So I'm probably just going to jump forward to the output, but I'll go ahead and run it, and we should see all of our data in a nice organized way at the end. And here we go. Let's see what we got for our output. So there were 2 contacts. So we should have 2 bundles here, 2 operations with outputs of bundles. And then you can see all of our data nicely organized within each one of these. So we have our emails array. It has all of our properties. So this would look the same as the data we needed for the emails. Notes array, same thing. Contacts posts. So here's all the posts organized very nicely. And then company posts. Nice, very nicely. This is exactly how I need it. So it's perfect, because the final step is to put all of this in a GPT prompt and have it take all that data and again create one tiny little message back to the contact that hopefully is personalized and feels human, like you actually sent it. So let's connect our OpenAI module, create completion prompt, use O4 mini, and then I'm not going to have you watch me type this like massive prompt, but I have it. And as a reminder, all of my prompts are available for free. This blueprint will be available for free. Go download it, and the prompt will be in there, and then you can use it. So you don't have to like copy and paste it or do funky screenshots in here. Just go download it. You can grab the prompt from it. All right. So again, this prompt is massive, and I created a video specifically for a prompt that creates prompts, and it works really well. And it's great to get a foundation of like a good prompt, but it'll walk through like, the role, the context, the task, and the output, and anything else that you need to add to it. So you can see that's pretty much what this is. So this is like, you're acting as, you are a sales nurture copywriter, which is an interesting term, but whatever, seems short. Generate a short 2-sentence max friendly follow-up message to a prospect using LinkedIn DMs or email. So watch the task. The output's going to be JSON. So we want it to return a subject and a body, mainly because we want the subject to match the body. And there's some specifics around like time relevance. The API endpoint doesn't know about what current date it is. When you're in ChatGPT, it knows about what date it is and can go do internet research and all these cool things. The actual OpenAI doesn't know that, doesn't have access to it. It's just the actual like LLM, like GPT model. So you actually have to tell it what day it is. Here you can see prioritization, focus more on emails and notes versus like LinkedIn posts, and then a bunch of specifics on like tone and style. And this is a massive prompt. It's fantastic. Like it'll give you really good outputs. So here's a bunch of examples I put in here. So this one's like, how's the Europe trip? Mike, how's the Europe trip? When you're settled back in, want to pick up on our convo about automating your inbound leads? Like, that's a great message. That's perfect. That's literally what I would write. So all of that work is really just to write something as simple as that. But that's why we automate it. So we do all the work there, so we never have to touch it again. So this is just running each week, and we don't have to actually have to like, type this out every single time. Ideally, you're sending, 20 or 30 of these a week or more if you have a large network. I have a bunch of examples in here on like what the output should be, and then some more instructions, and then I talk to the inputs. So the inputs, I say, they could be missing, but otherwise I set the current date, prospect name, and I've just linked all these to the data that we have. And then this is where all of that work we did to get those arrays structured the way we want now comes in handy here. ChatGPT can filter through the noise, so you can just give it the entire array, and I found that that works just great. And this array ends up being like an object, so it'll have the property name and the value, which is great because then ChatGPT can know like, oh, this date is specifically for created at versus updated at versus, commented at, like whatever it might be. If you're running into issues with this being too big, you could always structure this array and have less data. So remember, I was picking a bunch of the data. You could always pick less of it. You could also have it organized into like just the text. Lots of ways to slice it. And then finally, I like to bump this up just to make sure we give it some juice to work with for completion tokens, and the output's going to be JSON. So we have to go to the advanced settings and choose JSON and have the output. This allows us to actually use the data next module easily. So we'll save it, and now all of our work comes to this moment. So let's run it and see specifically what output we get for our contacts. All right, it worked. Let's see what message we got. So we have the first bundle and the output. Then our result is teed up when you're ready. Brandon, still you that round when I'm in San Diego. Good time to revisit the platform we demoed or want me to circle back later this summer. Like, that's perfect. Look at that. Look at what we had in here. I feel like where's our contact? It was me. And I think our last email was, thanks again for the time. I know this wasn't a good time now, and you wanted to revisit it in a couple months. Regardless, golf is on me the next time I'm out in San Diego. And so this is the perfect response. So assume this would have happened in, 3 months from them or 2 months or 30 days, whatever it was. Like that, like that's a perfect response. So it's amazing. And let's check out our second one. Result. How's re-entry after Europe? Brian, welcome back from the backpacking trip. Once you're settled, still up for revisiting how our launch product could fit into your executive suite, or should I resend the demo outline? Again, that's amazing. That is fantastic. I would literally click send on that. So let's go back to our contact. Hey, Brian, thanks for the time today. Let me know what your team thinks about the pricing, and good luck on your Europe trip. So if you're on an AI automation agency, you could take this, and this is free. Like, you could take this and you could go to all your business and say, hey, I'll find you an extra $10,000 in revenue, and turn this on their CRM. And I guarantee you're going to find him $10,000 in revenue, and you charge them, some type of percentage of that, $3,000, and you will blow their minds. And if this is for your own business, go copy it and turn it on and run it for your own business. And I guarantee you this will generate you more conversations that will generate more revenue. All right, now the final step is we have two options. The first option is we can either just send this as an email. The second option is we could throw this in some type of like automation tool. I'm going to quickly highlight both, but I'm not going to actually go and blow the whole thing out, just so you know. So we have Gmail. You can do send email. You configure this very easily through whatever email you have, and it'll send directly from there. Choose recipient, which would be your contact email from your contact properties. And then you would set your subject to whatever subject we have. What was it from our result? Oh, yeah. So you'd say your subject to your result, subject from your result. And the content would be your body. So if we save this and ran it, it would actually send an email from me to actually me and the random Brian contact that was in HubSpot when I set up the free account. So that's one option. This would work. It would send emails. And then the other option is, instead of going straight to email, you could use a tool like Phantom Buster, Limlist, which I use both of those religiously. They both allow you to send LinkedIn messages. And there's a little bit of configuration, but the idea is you set it up and then you would send the message directly in LinkedIn if you wanted to, instead of an email. So that's the foundation. Hopefully this helps you see a bunch of possibilities of where you could go from there. It was a lot of steps to create one tiny little message, but I guarantee it was worth it to make it personal. And I guarantee if you set this up and have this running, you're going to identify a ton of conversations that end up leading to revenue. Again, all my blueprints are free. Go download them. If you have questions, throw them in the comments. I'll try and answer them. And as usual, if you found value in this, please like, subscribe, and check out my next video.